Good afternoon. My TED Talk began as an investigation of creativity. I wanted to know how humans would be inputting their own values and their ability to design with intuition into artificial intelligence. And personally, I valued human intuition and ability to design with assumption as a member of Husky Robotics. However, a lot of what we did was very blocky and technical, something that really departed from how I envisioned myself as a designer when I was a child, with flowing sandcastles that I would build with arches and everything kind of molding into itself. However, as I've grown older, I've discovered with artificial intelligence, I can turn the 3D modeling programs that I use on Husky Robotics into my new sandbox. So I can create something that doesn't have necessarily the constraints of of just geometric shapes. So this is a part that I designed for the 2019 season, and using a shape generator and several force constraints that I placed on it, I was able to use artificial intelligence to create a design that no human would ever instinctively be able to design themselves or have the calculational ability to do so. And however, it meets my criteria as someone who wanted something that only was designed where forces were applied, where it was necessary. This program learned just like I did when I was a young child with sand. No one ever told me that arches were ever the strongest structure, but time and time again, as I learned, how I can build something, eventually I loved using arches because I realized how strong they were when I was designing with sand. And similarly here, it's able to use time and several iterations of a design to determine what the strongest shape is, but at a much faster pace than I was as a child. However, senior year came along and I got lazy. My willingness to do work significantly decreased as I approached May, and my expectations significantly increased. And surprisingly, this is actually very similar to the agricultural trends in output and workforce since the very beginning of time, and which led to the agricultural revolution, where output started to significantly increase even as agricultural employment decreased. And the reason why this matters is because for me to get better, or to get better results, even with a lower willingness to do work, I needed to supplement my mind, right? Not with drugs, don't worry, but with artificial intelligence, or at least my fantasy of artificial intelligence. So my low effort fantasy is to use a shape generator, but at a much higher level. So let's say I want to design a car. I'll say, okay, artificial intelligence, give me a car, and it'll give me this ugly Kia, right? But I'll say now, I want it to be more German. Let's make it a little bit fancy. So it'll give me something like this. It'll conjure this up from thousands of data sets that it's gotten from all around the world, from the internet, and create something like this. And I'll say, let's make it faster now. And boom, it'll give me something a lot sleeker, something that just looks like it can drive 200 miles per hour. And finally, I'll say, well, I want to look at a little bit more natural, still have all the same constraints that I initially gave it, and let's get an inspiration from turtles, right? And I'll get some crazy design like this, right? But how was I able to get to this point, right? Today, we're not able to do this, but in the future, we will. And the beauty of it is that with artificial intelligence, I won't know how we got from my thoughts to that crazy design. Artificial intelligence will be able to design more efficiently and more accurately to depict exactly what's in the human's head, better than even any human. And that is because it's not constrained by the same initial the constraints that humans are placed into when they're given programs such as Autodesk Inventor that are solely based on geometric shapes. So the next logical step is, once you have this car, are you going to put this dude behind the wheel? Well, let's look inside of his head. So we did a scientific study, and we looked at his brain, right there. And unfortunately, we found quite a few things going on while he was driving. First, he was on his phone. There was a lot of noises that were distracting him. He got hungry, started thinking of people liking him, driving in some special way, and butterflies all of a sudden started flying around his head. He started thinking about things that just weren't related to driving. He got really sleepy, and just overall several distractions. That is because 90% of 90% of human-related or of accidents are human caused, and so the only logical decision is to not put a human behind the wheel. You might not need any wheel at all, such as with the Waymo artificial intelligence driving car. So, self-driving cars have a dilemma that follows. But before we go into this dilemma, specific dilemma, I'd like to go back at one of the first dilemmas that was provided by Isaac Asimov. Literature revealed many things that we're now looking at and actually can consider as we go into this artificial intelligence revolution. The first one that's going to be larger than even the agricultural revolution or the industrial revolution. So in iRobot, Isaac Asimov looks at the web between people, government, business, and artificial intelligence and how they interact, all underneath the three laws that Isaac Asimov decided would rule the entire universe that he creates. So the first law we're given that a robot may not injure a human being. Next, a robot must obey orders. And third, it must protect its own existence. So when we look at these laws, we realize that many of them represent human values. Right? We're going to start with, I simplified them. Number 3, don't die. That's self-preservation. Humans, need to continue, living, and then so they can continue evolving and learning. Next, we have listen but do not kill, right? So this is the idea of having authoritarian figures, but ones that you can trust, and being able to listen to these authorities. Whether it's a doctor that may prescribe medication that might make you uncomfortable, but in the end will provide you with a better, a better overall scenario, or serving your country where you are willing to, put yourself in danger, but in order to make your country safer in the long run. And finally, to really protect humanity, right? Don't kill humans. And on the other end, to really do anything in order to protect them and to save them. And this really comes from the human ability to make the ultimate sacrifice when love is considered. So, unfortunately, these 3 laws of robotics aren't always interpreted or executed the same by every robot or every human. And that really is the basis of Isaac Asimov's short stories. And many of his, hypothetical scenarios, and many of his hypothetical scenarios come from these human values, because it kind of sums up really nicely here that if a robot follows these laws, they're a robot. But if a human were to follow these laws, they just turn out to be a very good human. And all these hypothetical scenarios, unfortunately, aren't always followed either by humans or by robots, exactly as maybe the designers intended them to. So that brings us to today's hypothetical scenario, which will be the trolley problem. With self-driving cars, we don't have the same type of trolley problem. Normally, you would be at the switch, and the trolley would be barreling toward 5 people, and you could make the choice to flip the switch, instead sacrificing one life, but at your expense, knowing that you would be the reason why that one life suffered, whereas the other 5 saved. So even though you have a net 4 lives saved, many people choose not to make this decision because they don't want to be associated with making a decision to kill somebody. However, when we look at self-driving cars, this problem kind of changes. First, you don't have somebody at the switch. Artificial intelligence now has control, right? You've got a car that's, let's say, barreling down the street, and all of a sudden, this scenario happens. Although it seems unlikely, you'll have several scenarios where a car needs to make the decision whether to switch lanes, causing somebody or causing a single person to get injured, whether it's fatal or not. They're going to have to make the decision to protect either the driver in the car or let's say a disobedient driver that swerved into the lane. Artificial intelligence will have to make this difficult decision, and many people are unwilling to put artificial intelligence on the road, knowing that it will be difficult because you have to pre-program artificial intelligence to make these decisions, knowing that they will happen. And the thing is, though, this isn't a one-time scenario. You're going to have it all around the world, hundreds of times, on every single street in every single city. However, this shouldn't be looked at negatively, because with artificial intelligence, you are given the chance to make an impact on every scenario. You can save a net 4 lives in every single one of these scenarios, right? When you take away from the human aspect of it, it may seem inhumane. However, looking at the big picture, you're really you would do a disservice to all of humanity to not give it the chance to save these lives. But you don't even have to look at just self-driving cars. If you look at the trolley problem, the trolley will always be technology. Technology will always be moving forward at an advancing pace. And in this case, you will be at the switch. You have this choice, right? And especially high school students at Naperville North will have the ability to sway either public opinion or courts. That's right here. This junction here will be where public opinion and court of law and governments make these decisions to say, oh, it's going to be not up to me. I'm going to let this trolley keep moving forward. I'm going to let technology move forward with or not move forward and take a step back and just let whatever happens happen. Or I can make the active decision to try getting technology to a place where it can grow as fast as it can, so that it has the potential to save the most lives. Like I said, artificial intelligence is more than just saving a single scenario, 4 people in a single scenario. Artificial intelligence goes beyond self-driving cars. It's going to be in medical scenarios, and it's going to be just in any legal scenario, deciding who goes to jail. And in all these scenarios, the more support that we give it, either through data sets or even public support, the better chances that we have to make the flip of the switch in the correct decision. And now it's your decision. Thank you.